My guest is Mark Stewart, Badgers reporter for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. We are previewing the Badgers season opener for 2024 against Western Michigan at Camp Randall Stadium. Mark, the first thing is the news this week that James Thompson Jr. is going to miss what seems like the rest of the season. I don't know if that's a definite yes that he's going to be out for the rest of the year, but he is out for a while. He happens to be a leader at a position that they don't have a lot of. Defensive line has been thin, and now it takes yet one more hit. Give me a sense of what you think his injury does for this unit and who in the world is going to be able to step up and fill that void.
Well, and I kind of touched on it in the story I wrote late, this week, that if there was one guy, if you had to put a list of people that you say, okay, we cannot lose this person on this team, James Thompson would be high on the list. He might not be one of your, if you were ranking best players on the team, he's pretty good. But, you combine his experience at the position and what they have there, and the fact that I think he was probably, I think he was poised to have a pretty good year, and he was having a good camp. It's a tough loss, and I don't know how they're going to compensate for his absence. I mean, I think, one of the things is just another year in the system. That's what you're hearing guys like Kurt Neal and Ben Barton talk about, just the second year in the defense, they feel a lot more comfortable. Things feel a lot more instinctive, and maybe that's going to help. And sometimes, what we've seen so far in camp is sometimes, injuries open up the door for guys, and maybe, players perform a little better than you anticipate. I do think that's kind of hard on a position like the defensive line, where it's such a, it's a grown man's position. So I think it's gonna be tough for guys to kind of come in and show things that they haven't been showing in practice. But that's what you got to hope. You got to hope that this first 2-3 weeks of the season, that guys just kind of get better and develop as the year goes on. And that maybe as you get toward, really that tough meat part of the schedule that's going to hit you in late October, that you've developed some depth there that maybe you don't have right now.
One of the spotlighted guys, or maybe the spotlighted guy, will be Tyler Van Dyke, the transfer from Miami, who is going to be playing in his first, presumably only year with the Badgers program. He has defined himself as QB1 through the course of the preseason. Give me a sense of what you've seen from him lately. It's easy to forget. Yes, he wasn't at his best the last couple of years at Miami, but he's got this talent in him. He had some really, really good numbers in his redshirt freshman season in 2021. It feels like it's just a matter of finding the right fit for him. Maybe Phil Longo's system is that fit. Give me a sense of what you're looking for when you watch him play for the first time under the lights.
Well, I'm looking for, we've heard a lot about, Wisconsin stretching the field, vertically, which is something we didn't see a lot of last year. So sorry, that was a bird that just flew by me. So that's definitely one thing I want to see is like, okay, how much is Tyler willing to even attempt those kind of throws? And then obviously on the back end, can a Vinny Anthony, a CJ Williams, can those guys make more of those plays this year? The other thing I'm interested in is just ball distribution. Last year, Will Pauling and Skylar Bell, who's no longer with the team, that slot receiver position gets a lot of attention, or at least it got a lot of attention last year. But for the offense to really be at its best, you really got to spread the ball around. So I'm going to be interested to just kind of see, how the ball is distributed this year. Are we going to see guys like Will Pauling continue to just get a ton of targets, or will we see more balance?
Trech Kekahuna is a guy that I really want to see. I feel like as much as there's intrigue around the true freshmen and a lot of the transfers, Van Dyke included, of course, he'd be at the top of this list. But Kekahuna is the guy I think has the most potential, it seems like, to just be a star this season. And maybe that's putting too much on him for a guy who's only played sparingly. But is that the new name for people who are used to watching the Badgers? And yes, they know the quarterback will be new, but is that the one guy that I think people are really going to be excited to see or will want to see when this game gets going?
I do. I think last year the small sample size that we saw of him, because he did play 4 games, but he was able to keep his red shirt. So for people who are wondering, like, well, why is he still listed as a red shirt freshman? It's because he, you can play up to 4 games and keep that year. And yeah, he's different. Like, you see him with the ball in those tight spaces and he stops on a dime. He's just real entertaining to watch. And he, of the guys that they have, it seems just like he's a big play waiting to happen. Now, obviously, you still got Will Pauling, who's your #1 slot receiver, but I think we're going to see more of Will and Trech on the field together, and we're going to see different combinations than maybe we saw a year ago. But yeah, I'm very intrigued to see what Trech can do as well.
We haven't talked a lot about the offensive line on this team, and I think that was kind of one of the indictments the last couple of years on the Badgers is they haven't been able to keep it together where a guy can take over. Braylon Allen was very, very good when he was here, but also it felt like that maybe yards were left on the table because the line just couldn't gel together. A lot of these guys were here last year. There's a couple new additions. The tackles, Jack Nelson and Riley Mallman, are the same, so there is some continuity here. How do you feel? Is this a true Wisconsin football offensive line? Are they back to having those types of, that type of excellence in that unit, or are there still too many question marks?
I mean, I think the big question mark is, health. I mean, I think when you look at that starting unit, I mean, I feel pretty good about what I've seen from that starting unit to think that, hey, this is going to be a pretty productive group. And then when you bring in the coaching change of, AJ Blazek, as the offensive line coach, he's really just kind of gone in and I think just really connected with guys and maybe brought an energy to teaching that position, as well as maybe simplifying some things that's really going to help this unit do well. Now, the key is you got to stay healthy because this is one of those years I would look at this after that starting 5. This is like a depth building year. You got a lot of young guys who are in the 2 deep or who are on the cusp of being in the 2 deep. So, especially on the offensive line, we talked about grown man position for a defensive line. Offensive line is the same way. And it's tough for young guys to really come in and make, big impacts. If you got freshmen starting on your offensive line, usually that's not a good thing. True freshmen, I mean. Right. So I do think the unit's going to be better, but the key is everyone's just got to stay healthy. And that's kind of where I think things stand with that group.
Obviously, if Western Michigan wins on Friday, that will be very bad news for the Wisconsin Badgers, a very bad omen, a very bad loss, et cetera, et cetera. I would imagine that Wisconsin will win this game. Pretty likely that's going to happen. But what are you looking for? We kind of asked this before. What do you need to see to know that 2024 isn't going to be a repeat of 2023?
Well, I mean, let's just start with the start of the games. I mean, sure, it's Western Michigan, but, slow starts, hurt this team in a few games that it lost. How do they get out of the gate? That's one thing I'm going to be looking for. Another thing I'm going to be looking for is, a lot of attention was made in the transfer portal in terms of pass rush and linebacker, getting linebackers and people who can, pressure the quarterback and make him uncomfortable. Can Wisconsin do that? I mean, with, Western Michigan, it seems like, the strength of their team is their offensive line. They have a veteran quarterback. They have a pretty talented sophomore running back too. So, for a week 1 opponent, it seems like Western Michigan has some tools that would, give Wisconsin a test. But yeah, I definitely want to see what kind of, how uncomfortable Wisconsin makes the opposing quarterback and just how they control that line of scrimmage, especially from a defensive standpoint.
He is Mark Stewart, Wisconsin Badgers reporter for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. Find everything he has at jsonline.com. You can find him on Twitter. He'll be there Friday at Camp Randall Stadium. 8 o'clock kickoff, Mark, for this game against Western Michigan. That's kind of brutal. I know we'll get through it.
Yeah, we'll get through it. If it would have been especially brutal in the old days, if when you had the hard print deadlines.
Oh yeah.
At least now, with the internet, it makes things a little little easier from a deadline standpoint, but you know, but yeah, hey, it's a night game at Camp Randall. It should be, you know, it should be pretty good regardless.
We will both be there. You can follow us on social media. You can follow us at jsonline.com, and we will talk to you again very soon. Bye-bye, everybody.